This is very much a side now which has given themselves a wonderful platform.
Freo is still Freo until they deliver.
The difference between them and the elite, it's quite pronounced. West Coast are still very much a work in progress.
Well, hello, my name's Mark Stevens. I'm at Zero Hanger HQ, and welcome to the Outer Wing, brought to you by TABtouch. Real punters play here. Once again, I'll be joined by Digby Beacham, the great journo over in Perth. Let's get on with it. Well, g'day Diggers, how's things over in Perth? It wasn't the most exciting derby, but the season rolls on.
A very good day to you, Stevo. You bang on. Yeah, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing Western derby that we have seen over this part of the country, but what it did do was underline the stark difference, I suspect, it's fair to say, between the two sides. Fremantle very much in the go zone, and West Coast are still very much a work in progress.
We've been talking up Freo all year, talking about top four. I'm now looking at the top two. I'm thinking about booking a trip over there, that lovely pub next to Optus. What's that pub called again? It's a ripper. But
we're very accommodating over here, Stevo. You know that. Our hospitality is very good. And look, I'm with you. I think it depends what they're talking about internally. They might not be saying what we're talking about here today, but this is very much a side now which has given themselves a wonderful platform. The top four would have been a goal at the start of the year, but for these interstate sides, and I talk of those sides outside Victoria, it's imperative that you finish top two to give yourself a double chance. We saw what happened with Adelaide last year. It doesn't guarantee success, but I think if Fremantle are fair dinkum with what they've done thus far and what's to come, they should be looking to finish top two.
Well, they look rock solid, and to underline that, we've got a defender for the first time has won the medal in the Derby. So that really underlines it.
Yeah, it does. Geordie Clark you're talking about. And look, you guys over there on the East Coast saw him when he started his career at Geelong. He started in a blaze of glory, then he sort of came back a peg or two. And since he's been at Fremantle, he's been Mr. Reliable. He's durable. He serves a really important role in that back six, and it's a wonderful back six that Fremantle have got, it must be said. They're in elite form behind the ball, and that's been a hallmark of Justin since he came to Fremantle. He's been very much a defence-first coach, and Fremantle at the moment are the beneficiaries of that, and Geordie Clark's been outstanding.
And they've conceded the least points in the comp. Have we missed that, Diggers, as a story? I mean, it's a fair effort for the Purple Power. They've been down to Geelong, probably should have won down there. So everything's lining up. That defence, are we underrating it as a whole?
I think so, Steve. They've only conceded 199 points in their past four games. So it's a pretty good record, as you said. It's Richmond 43 points, Adelaide 76, Collingwood 39, and then on the weekend, West Coast, albeit they were inaccurate in the first half, 41. Best defence in the competition at the moment. You've got Cox, you've got Pearce, you've got Luke Ryan, Geordie Clark, Judd McVie, Heath Chapman. They're doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, you sound like Gary Ayres there, reeling off all those names. It's as he used to do, but they have played some games in the wet, though, we've got to say. A couple of them were rainstorms, we've had cyclones, we've had everything, but still good numbers, Diggers.
Very good numbers, and again, what happened last year doesn't guarantee that it's going to flow over to this year, but they have played Geelong and Geelong, they have played Adelaide and Adelaide, and they have taken down Collingwood, who remain around the mark. I'm not saying they're going to be a top four, top six side, but you know what you get with Collingwood. They're very disciplined, very organised. West Coast are going to be Fremantle's opponent twice. They're going to run into some sides in the next 4 to 6 weeks, which they should fill their boots with, and I think they'll do so against Carlton this weekend as well. Yeah,
it looks that way. And Jai missed 5 goals. He's kicked 4 9 times. He's got the bag of 5. We've been critical of him at times. Some days he just doesn't turn up. He gets 2 or 3 touches, but he has got the ability to finish, and we saw that in Adelaide.
Yeah, we saw it in Adelaide, and look, he was a little bit wayward on the weekend just gone, but he took, I think, 9 marks inside 50. He's kicked 5. His last month's been outstanding. So what he has done, he's eased the pressure on Voss, he's eased the pressure on Tracy. So if Jai Amos is able to, display that form, and it's a pretty high mark at the moment, Fremantle will just become all that stronger.
Yeah, and Brayshaw only had 15 disposals, his lowest in his 15 outings in a derby. So you'd think that's bad news for Carlton. He's going to lift this week, and the Blues have got a huge challenge just to keep this purple army of midfielders out of the way.
Yeah, agree. Look, Andy Brayshaw didn't have a lot of it on the weekend. I'm still of the belief he might be the the best two-way runner in terms of a midfielder in the competition. His work defensively is outstanding, and he'll find a heap of it this week. I'm really confident of that. I think Sarong will get to work as well. We saw Hayden Young come back into the lineup last week. Murphy Reid, a man from over your part of the country, Stevo, he's proving to be one of the great draft steals. I'm sure there's a lot of discussions taking place in regards to list management teams throughout the competition because he's an elite player. He's a surgeon, a bit like Hayden Young. The midfield's chockers, the back line's outstanding, forward line's potent. Luke Jackson's a star ruckman. They're right there.
Give us a weakness then, Diggers. There has to be one somewhere. A little chink in the armour.
Can I throw it back at you, Stevo? Because I'm very pro Fremantle, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record each and every week we speak, but do you see any weak links with Fremantle?
Thanks for putting me on the spot there, Diggers. What I would say a weak link for Freo is above the shoulders. Whether I can trust Freo when the crunch really comes. We saw it down at Geelong, they wobbled. Freo is still Freo until they deliver. You know where I'm getting at, until they deliver on the big stage. So Freo will always be Freo. That's my only concern. They've got the cattle there, but we've seen them wobble before. And it's just a trademark, isn't it? It's a stain on their brand that they need to get rid of. And I think they're doing... look, we'll wait until September, I think, for that, Diggers.
Yeah, I agree with that, Steve. We only are going to find that out later this year in the postseason. But what they're doing at the moment, they're taking care of business. They've won 5 on the bounce. I suspect it'll be 6 on the bounce. Then they get your Bulldogs over there at Marvel and perhaps without a few key personnel as well. So they're well placed.
Well, it's great coverage, Diggers. We'll take a break. We'll be back with a deep dive into the Eagles. Things aren't quite as positive there.
Could a mullet with tightly tapered sides reduce wind resistance, allowing for faster acceleration off the mark? Now that's something to think about.
What are you really gambling with?
Well, Diggers, now to the Eagles. It's a similar theme every week, although they've improved. We sort of got what we expected. As much as the Derby was pumped up as a big event, bit of a fizzer, West Coast, and Freo are Freo. That's just the way it is this year.
Yeah, very much so, Stevo. And look, if you're to be a little bit glass half full with West Coast, they've run headlong into Sydney, Geelong and Fremantle. 3 sides who are very much in the premiership conversation. So, look, and that's beyond them at the moment. Clearly, the evidence would suggest they're not at that level. They're a long way from that level. They're coming off a dreadful 2025. So they've already won one more game than what they did for the entirety of last season. But the difference between them and the elite, it's quite pronounced.
So they're coming up against the Saints, who I think have been pretty good. I agree with Ross Lyon. They have improved if you take the win-loss away. Their percentage hasn't improved, but certainly the way they're playing St Kilda. So it's not going to be easy for the Eagles. Diggers, do you think there's any relief coming at all?
I'd like to say yes, and on paper it looks like it is an easier assignment, but I'm with you, Steve. St Kilda have been okay this year. Their record, win-loss record that is, doesn't suggest that they've come ahead in leaps and bounds, but they haven't been far away, and they could have quite easily beaten Adelaide in Adelaide last weekend. So, look, any time you go up against a Ross Lyon coach side, you're going to have some question asked of you, and I suspect the questions that Ross Lyon and the St Kilda Football Club will ask of West Coast this week will be beyond them.
Are they going to go defensive, a little bit of damage control? Will they try and tag Naz? Will they try and keep it to a respectable result? Because I've got a feeling it could get out of control if the Saints get up and running.
Well, if the Saints do get up and running, and we have seen it on more than one occasion this year, they're quite proficient, aren't they, in front of the goals? And look, West Coast, the issue with West Coast is defensively they've got some glaring holes. They haven't got the key position stocks behind the ball that you'd like. I think Andrew McQualter has made mention of that on more than one occasion. They're feeling the effects of no Barras. They're feeling the effects of no McGovern. Harry Edwards is missing through concussion. Ruben Ginby's a ripper, but he's often being asked to, carry out roles which are beyond him in regards to a physical viewpoint. He was terrific against Tracy last week, but he's lacking support, and that's a real concern when you're a side which is probably not up to the mark midfield-wise, and you're not impacting the scoreboard as well as you'd like.
Yeah, our people at TABtouch, our good friends at TABtouch, have got a stat. So Ginby kept Tracy to a season-low 3 marks, which is a pretty good effort. He's coming along quite nicely. I thought he was a tad overrated early on, Ginby. People over in the West were sort of clutching at anything, but he has seriously improved.
He's lion-hearted, I'll give him that. Look, could he use the ball better once he's in possession? Yeah, he could. He's not alone. Liam Duggan's another one who needs to be better by foot, but certainly Ruben will give you everything each and every week, and he is a very, very respected member of that football club because of that. He leaves nothing to chance.
Is there any word over there that maybe West Coast can go after some mature age defenders? I mean, they've got a lot of kids. Are they going to be proactive as far as trying to fill a few holes? You know, as you said, Barras a big loss, and obviously what Hawthorn did when the Barras and battle, you sort of get your pieces together. We saw it with Melbourne, with Lever and May. That's where you launch from, if you like, your premiership assault.
Yeah, very much so. I think everything's on the table here, Stevo, from a West Coast viewpoint. There has to be. And look, if you're a key position defender in the competition, and I suspect your manager might be getting a phone call or a text message from a West Coast official just to gauge some interest, because they need to explore ways to give that back line more stability. I've got a bit of time for young Rhett Bazzo over here. He's only 22. He's mid-190s. He's had some horrible misfortune in his personal life, losing both of his parents. We know he's battled some issues with his body. His old man, his late father, Stephen, was a really good waffle player, a premiership player over here. And I think if Rhett can get a run at it, he can fill a really important role behind the ball as well for West Coast. He's been in good form at the waffle level. Hopefully he gets an opportunity soon, because I think the young man can play.
We've got to mention Harley Reid. It looks suitable for him to have a bit of a day out. I'm not sure the Saints will be too defensive. They may go a bit of a tag, but I think the fast deck's going to suit him.
Yeah, I hope so. And look, Harley just needs to worry about winning the football and being the best teammate he can be, rather than worried about what the umpires are doing and saying and giving away silly free kicks or 50-metre penalties. Just channel your focus on winning the football, winning the contest, because that's his one wood. He can find the football in congestion and he can distribute it, or he can run away from congestion. So, look, he's still very, very important to West Coast, but you just like him to be a little bit more narrow-minded in his focus to attack on the footy. Yeah,
I think we'd agree Freo are in for a solid win. What do you think margin-wise in this game, Diggers? Can the Eagles get within 5 goals?
Oh, look, I'd like to say yes, Steve. I thought they'd get within 5 or 6 goals of Fremantle, so I was way off the mark there because Fremantle did a number on them. Look, it's all about the appetite, I think, for the contest from a St Kilda viewpoint. If they want to go there and have their way with West Coast, I suspect they can. Is it 6-7 goals? Probably around that mark.
Oh, good move, Diggers. I tend to agree. I think it could even be longer or wider than that. But for TABtouch, real punters play here. Give us some bets, Diggers. I need some money. I'm a bit low on it. Of course, gamble responsibly, but I'd love to turn things around this week.
Yeah, fair call. Look, you mentioned Andy Brayshaw earlier, Stephen. I'm with you. I think he can find the football. So let's go this. Caleb Sarong and Andy Brayshaw to get 25 plus disposals against Carlton on Saturday evening here, and Josh Tracy to rebound from a rare quiet evening and kick 2+ goals. That's $4 with TABtouch. So I'm thinking on a beautiful, crisp autumn evening here on a fast track at Optus Stadium, that's the way to go. And for the St Kilda West Coast game, $2.90 on offer about Liam Baker to have it 20+ times and Naz to have it 25+ times.
I like it. I think Baker's going to get a few cheapies. I think that will happen in this game. Naz is surely due. I think certainly Wilkie's winning the best and fairest there. And I've got a bit of a bet going there on that one, that I think Wilkie will finish in best and fairest for the Saints. So I'm happy there, Diggers. You've been great again. Thanks for joining the Outer Winger. We'll see you next week.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.